Hello and welcome to Creating Canon with your hosts AJ Hamilton and Nicholas C. Pappas.
I don't even know what is happening. Are you breaking up with me? Are you breaking up with me?
Nick, of course not. This is just a very special episode.
AJ, it is a very special episode. If you listen to our last episode, which was the April Fool's Day Spider-Man.
Sorry for fooling you.
Yeah, but we had a good time.
We had such a
I wish
great.
that movie existed.
Me too.
That version
and someday
of that movie,
we will make it.
Yeah, we will dig up Charles Bronson.
We will find a time machine. That's what we got to do.
That's what we have to do, is find a time machine and make that happen. Because that needs to be in the world. And what else should have been in the world, but sadly wasn't, was the fact that Canon, Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus were the first movie studio to own the rights to Marvel films. And Canon and 21st Century Films eventually ended up making a Captain America.
Right.
And they made a Punisher, both of which were
well, go back to episode 2 of this podcast
to listen to the Captain America one. But at the same time, they had also commissioned a script of Spider-Man, and through some incredible internet sleuthing, we were able to find the exact canon script of Spider-Man.
The first draft.
So AJ and I, from the day we found it, thought, wouldn't it be incredible if we recorded an episode of Creating Canon that just was a cast of incredible actors reading this draft of the Spider-Man movie?
Oh my God.
And folks,
that's happened.
We've done it. Today is that day.
This is it.
This episode will be split into 2 parts,
right?
Because it is a very long movie.
It's 117 pages, something like that.
It's 117 pages, and we read all the stage directions and all of that stuff as well. So we're going to try to make this a movie for your mind as much as possible. So we have all the actors, of course, reading dialogue. But then on top of that, for those who aren't familiar with screenplays or how screenplays work, there's a lot of action that is described. And sometimes those action sequences on screen will last about 10 seconds.
Yep.
But they actually take up almost 3 full pages or so of text.
Yeah.
And we read all of those stage directions. Yeah. So
it's like a radio play. It's going to be
like a radio play. Yeah. So just a couple of quick things before we start. For those who are not familiar, I am reading stage directions. So just point that out. Put that there. Oftentimes you'll hear me say something like interior and then label a place, or exterior label a place. Those are terms used in scripts to let people know whether or not the action is taking place inside or outside. So you'll hear a lot of stuff like that. Just know that's what it is. Anytime you hear me say interior, exterior, we are changing from one scene to the next scene. Some of you may already know that, and I apologize for telling you something you already know.
Hey, we're just here to educate as much as entertain.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
edutainment.
It's edutainment. So here it is.
So without further ado, Spider-Man Act 1 with the voice acting talents of
Ben Bode,
Kari Lee Cartwright,
Jessica Goldapple,
Seth Gunawardena,
AJ Hamilton,
Jason Lovett,
Armando McClain,
Nicholas C. Pappas,
Adrian Papp,
and Thomas Rounds.
We really hope you enjoy, and we'll catch you next week.
Heck yeah.
For part 2. A letter from Marvel President James E. Galton to Menachem Golan, CEO of Canon Films, dated December 16th, 1985.
Dear Menachem, I thought I would write you concerning the Spider-Man script written by John Brancato and Ted Newsom, and the Captain America script written by Michael Winner and Stan Hay. The Spider-Man script, in my opinion, is superb. It maintains the basic integrity of the character in the original story while placing it in a modern setting. It is simple and direct in its plot line and very easy for the reader to follow. I have now read approximately 12 Spider-Man scripts or treatments, and this is by far the best of the lot. The Captain America script, on the other hand, I found to be bloody awful. It does not maintain the basic integrity of the character. It plays fast and loose with the basic storylines, and I found it to be so convoluted in its plot that I had difficulty following it. In addition, I found the situation totally implausible, as it stretches credibility beyond the reader's limit. I certainly think it means going back to the drawing board again to get a more credible script. Best regards, James E. Galton, President.
Spider-Man, written by Ted Newsom and John Brancato, based on characters created by Stan Lee. First draft, November 24th, 1985. Interior, basement, day. A single glistening strand of a spider's web bisects the black frame. As classical music caresses our ears, we see the strand crisscrossing others in a perfect orb web. A spider, black with an intricate pattern, drops into frame. It gracefully gathers and weaves the strands together. The web and spider become small, a gray mass against a basement ceiling corner. The further back we go, the grimmer the scene becomes. Peeling industrial green paint, tangles of pipes and electrical cable, harsh lighting. We hear a low whir, the pitch growing higher. A cyclotron. The colossal donut-shaped accelerator dominates the basement lab. It's a cylindrical metallic tube suspended from the ceiling with wires and fixtures over its length. Utilitarian, a patchwork of technology from the 40s to the 80s with radioactivity warnings. Interior, experimental chamber, day. A steel and glass chamber is built around and below a section of the cyclotron. Metal shelves of equipment, a large electrical transfer with heavy cables leading into it from the floor. A three-fingered mechanical claw, we'll call it a Waldo, thrusts into the frame. Its telescoping arm extends, lifts a tiny 1-gram cylinder from a rack of standard weights on a shelf. Another Waldo holds a lead canister. A third removes a sealed vial containing a thick, muddy liquid. A fourth arm reaches up to adjust a crystal focusing cone, which juts out from the cyclone tube. The arm aims the cone at a digital scale on a table in the center of the room. The 4 Waldos are mounted on a panel with a thick, clear pane above it. Through the glass, a shadowy figure manipulates the controls. A fibrous blue-white beam erupts from the cone, focusing on the weight and the title's end. Interior, control room, day. The whir is muffled now. The music loud from a stereo in the control room. A video monitor shows a Waldo placing the gram weight on a scale. A digital readout beside the screen jumps from 0.000000 to 1.000000. A computer screen displays irregular colored patterns describing the downward arcs of subatomic particles. A digital clock, 8:57 a.m. A half-eaten chili dog lies on the control panel. Dr. Otto Octavius, Doc Ock, manipulates the Waldo controls. In his 50s, Ock is broad, thickly featured, brooding, with unfashionably long hair. He wears a strange sweatshirt, protective goggles. Without interrupting his concentration, he lights a fresh cigarette from the butt of his last and takes a bite of the chili dog. Interior, basement hallway, day. Alexander Thorkel and Solomon Rosamoff, aka Roz, enter from a flight of stairs. Tall, thin, 40, Thorkel wears horn-rimmed glasses and a Brooks Brothers suit. Roz, a professor of astrophysics, walks spryly despite his 75 years. The men head to the door at the end of the hall. Cyclotron, authorized personnel only, on the door.
I'm sorry to bother you, Professor, but the man is impossible.
He has his reasons, Thorkel. At the moment, he has something to prove.
He refused to open the door.
Well, maybe he didn't hear you knock.
Thorkel snorts. Roz fishes a key card from his tweeds, inserts it into the lock. Interior control room, day. The door buzzes open.
You'll be late for class, Dr. Octavius.
Roz sighs. Ock doesn't turn around. Thorkel snaps the music off.
The university pays you to teach.
Ock twists a dial. The whir increases in pitch. The light grows more intense. Thorkel frowns. Ock notices Roz, a look of understanding between them.
Otto, I don't like Thorkel any more than you do, but he has got a point.
Rosimov, I have better things to do than to teach introductory physics to mindless adolescents.
Well, perhaps, but every now and then someone pays attention. You did.
Thorkel looks at his watch. Ox size. And snaps a switch. Interior, experimental chamber, day. The 4 Waldos pull backwards and hang limply. The whir winds down. Exterior, 7th Avenue, day. The diesel engine of a bus winds down as it pulls up. The doors hiss open. Sneakered feet bound down the bus steps into frame, onto the sidewalk. The young man in the sneakers, Peter Parker, passes a bank clock that reads 9:02. Intelligent, 20, with dark hair and rimless glasses, Peter is neither a nerd nor a male model. Drabbily dressed in jeans and a button-down shirt, he carries a book-filled backpack over one shoulder, a styrofoam cup of coffee in the opposite hand. Yawning, he hurries down the avenue. Exterior, Greenwich Village Street, day. Peter heads down a side street toward an institutional building. A sign reads, Curtis Connor Science Center, and below, Empire State University. Soot, not ivy, covers the brick walls. Interior, Science Center, Lecture Hall, day. Looking down over tiers of built-in chairs to a podium and a blackboard flanked by doors. Somber, traditional academia. The half-filled class settles as Peter enters and looks up towards the higher rows. A young kid in the first row, Harry Osborne, waves at Peter. Slight and awkward, Harry has nervous mannerisms and a garish heavy metal t-shirt.
Hiya, Peter!
Peter gives him a perfunctory wave. He climbs up toward the back row where Liz Allen sits with feet on the empty chair in front of her, seemingly absorbed in a dog-eared Jane Austen novel. Her style reflects a quirky sense of humor. Floppy hot pink sweater over a brilliant purple dress. Brightly striped knee socks with clashing ballet slippers. Colorful jewelry. Liz is the single bright spot in this otherwise drab environment. Without looking up from her book, she folds her legs up for Peter to pass. He sits discreetly one seat away from her, lays his backpack beside her. Peter eyes Liz over his coffee, clearly pleased to see her.
Good morning, Liz.
Oh, very dull, Peter Parker.
It's too early to be clever.
She unzips his backpack and toys with his Nikon.
It's never too early to be clever. Describe in a sentence how you feel about me.
Huh?
Fill in the blank. I blank Elizabeth Allen.
Is a good start.
Loathe Elizabeth Allen. Abhor. Detest. Despise.
Oh, well, I hate you and everyone who looks like you.
Down below, Doc Ock rumbles in, cigarette dangling from his lips, and slams his notes down on the podium. There's a no smoking sign behind him. He starts his lecture as Liz and Peter continue their rapid parry and thrust.
I hate the platonic idea of you.
I hate people with alliterative names.
I hate
your relatives. I hate your coffee. I hate your shoes.
Barely audible, and in the background we hear Doc Ock say,
As you are doubtless recall, there are 4 known forces in the universe.
not my coffee.
She puts his camera down and grabs his cup. Takes a sip.
No, I was lying about the coffee.
Thank God.
Liz looks deep into his eyes. It's the first time she's looked at him.
I was lying about it all, Peter. I love you. Ever since the 3rd grade, I've loved you. I've wanted you. I dream of you night and day. My very being o'erbrims with a burning passion for you.
Peter wishes this were true. Suddenly, Flash Thompson dips into frame and covers Liz's mouth in a wet kiss. Peter looks away, grossed out. Flash dumps the pack on Peter's lap, then climbs into the chair beside Liz and throws his arm around her. She tries to catch Peter's eyes as if to apologize, but he avoids her look.
Which we all know by heart, don't we, Mr. Thompson?
Flash grabs Peter's notes without missing a beat, holds them out of view, and reads.
Natch, Doc, that's 6.671 times 10 to the negative 11th. In what quantity?
Flash tries to decipher the hidden notes.
Meters cubed over kilograms seconds squared.
Flash curls his lips. Peter retrieves his notes, clucks his tongue at Flash.
Crime doesn't pay, Flash.
Interior reading room, day, early afternoon. The long tables of the oak-paneled library are crowded with studying students. A print of a fox hunting scene hangs above a mantelpiece. A fat male librarian sits at a desk. We dolly in to pick out Peter Parker, slouching in a chair with a notebook in his lap. He sniffs something, looks around, and sees Harry in the stacks, dragging a small cloth bag over the floor and bookshelves. Peter rolls his eyes. Harry crosses to the table at the far end from Peter. He slides the squirming bag down the table like a whiskey glass in a saloon. Peter grabs the bag in mid-slide, shakes his head no, silently but firmly. Harry grins crazily and nods, "Oh yes." Sensing mischief, the librarian glances up. Peter heads into the stacks with the bag, pursued by Harry. They whisper,
You maniac! You'll blow your scholarship.
They'll never take me alive.
Peter ducks as the librarian passes. Harry snatches the bag back, artistically swipes the man's rump with it. The librarian doesn't notice.
What's in there?
A little buddy I saved from dissection.
Harry!
Roz walks past, looks at Peter, who waves nervously.
Mr. Parker?
Hi, Professor. What's up?
Harry scrambles the top stack, H through K, by a window. A tape deck sits at the ready.
You tell me.
Roz sees Harry signal out the window. Exterior library day. A van marked Rutland's Complete Hunter parked by the steps. 2 men in red hunting jackets return Harry's signal and open the van doors. Interior reading room day. Harry clicks on the tape player, a hunting trumpet, rousing everybody in the library. A dozen baying basset hounds rush in, following the scent over tables, under chairs, upsetting everything in their wake. Pandemonium. Students laugh, applaud, some join in the chase. Dogs pursue the librarian, who falls, overturning a bookcase. Peter smiles in spite of himself. Ross claps. From atop his bookcase, Harry watches it all proudly. The scent bag still in his hand. The dogs pick up on it, leaping and yelping at him. Exterior Washington Park day, late afternoon. Peter and Liz cross the park toward a pretzel vendor.
But the dogs treat him between Huxley and Kafka.
Poor Harry, always desperate for attention. What about the bunny?
Back to the lab. Harry will probably lose his scholarship.
Peter pays for 2 pretzels. $2 and no change. He winces a little. She takes a bite of pretzel.
He'll weasel out of trouble. Again.
Maybe. I could have stopped it, though.
Since you're feeling guilty, why not donate your pretzel to somebody who needs it?
She gestures over his shoulder toward a derelict homeless man. A tacky, blatant sexual woman in her early 20s, Kim, wiggles past the homeless man in question.
My.
Yeah, really gets to you if you let it.
Liz looks past Peter into the distance.
I suppose.
You want to give them something, but they'll just buy more Ripple. And they smell so bad.
What?
Peter looks at Liz, puzzled and amused. She waves towards the Washington Square arch where Flash gets out of his double-parked MG. His eyes follow Kim's rear. He pants lasciviously.
God, Flash can be such a jerk.
But you like that in a man?
You should write that one down.
Flash, Liz. You're going out with something that calls itself Flash.
Some prep school thing.
Does it have a human name?
Eugene. Admit it, Peter. You'd do anything for a nickname like Flash.
I'd never admit that.
Hurry up, Flash!
She stops. She looks at Flash, then back at Peter.
What are you doing this weekend?
I gotta study.
Oh, maybe I should too.
Lizzie!
I was sort of hoping to get out of...
I'm parked illegally.
Liz purses her lips, then hurries to Flash, gets into his car. As the MG speeds away, she turns in the passenger seat, watching Peter recede into the distance. Exterior Bugle offices day, a 1940s office building, the kind with pitted linoleum and smelly elevators. A faded plastic sign in a 4th-floor window reads, "The Bugle, New York's favorite tabloid."
No, forget it.
Interior Jameson's office day. A hand sorts through 8x10 black and white photos. A bag lady with a shopping cart.
Too artsy.
Peter looks over at Jameson's shoulder, collecting the rejects in mounting frustration. Next is a wacky sign, such as, "Happy Funeral Home."
Too dumb.
Peter makes a gesture as if to throttle Jameson. The next photo shows a mohawked punk in a business suit with a briefcase.
Too hip. Your photos suck, kid.
Think you're trying to tell me something.
J. Jonah Jameson is 50, graying, sour-faced, cigar chewing. Unlike the gruff but benign stereotype, publisher Jameson is a bastard to the last. Framed photos of celebrities, biological freaks, and aliens line the wall. Papers and rotting coffee cups clutter his ratty desk. Sluggish activity out in the main office. The feel is cynical exhaustion. The bugle is the dregs of the newspaper world. Betty, Jameson's 30-ish assistant, enters with a layout on boards. She looks Peter over. Peter doesn't notice holding up the bag lady photo.
Think of the cut line. Bag lady makes millions recycling cans.
Betty grins. Jameson considers it, then shakes his head. He signs the boards, JJJ.
Bring me some stuff that'll grab the moron. Something like...
Jameson holds up the front page board featuring a bus teetering on a bridge with a huge headline. Bus plunge kills 20. He grins proudly.
Oh, come on, that was pure luck. The guy was in the right place at the right time.
You make your own luck, Parker. Get into the middle of things. Spend each day pounding the pavement of the city's mean streets.
But you're a full-time student, right?
My scholarship only covers books and tuition, so I've got to freelance too.
Save the chit-chat for the singles bar. Now out, both of you.
Betty sticks her tongue out at Jameson and opens the door for Peter. Exterior, Peter's apartment building, evening. A seedy East Village walk-up. Peter collects his mail, unlocks the outside door. Interior, Peter's hallway, evening. Panting, Peter climbs the last flight to his studio loft, muttering at his bills. At the head of the stairs, he stops. His door is ajar. He takes a deep breath, clutching the keys between his fingers as a weapon.
There's nothing in there worth stealing.
That's the understatement of the year.
Interior, Peter's apartment, evening. A one-roomed, eaved apartment. A chaos of books and papers. A photo enlarger and darkroom baths and kitchen pots. 8x10s tucked to the walls. A spare camera and lenses. Self-consciously wacky kitsch. Plastic dinosaurs, wind-up toys. A stuffed carp. An unmade bed and a 50s dinette set are the only furniture. A grimy skylight leads to the roof. It's not a pretty place, but it has personality. A slim, sharp-featured woman in her 50s kneels by the stereo. This is Aunt May. In stylish slacks and a jacket, she radiates vigor and poise. Peter enters, tosses his backpack and bills on the Formica table.
Aunt May, you're trespassing.
Your records are older than you are. Have you ever heard of New Wave?
Peter sprawls in a plastic chair. May shrugs and settles for a Beatles album. Moving fast, she crosses toward him, leans to kiss his forehead and stops, stares, points at a pimple near his headline.
When I moved out, you swore up and down you wouldn't meddle.
Oh, Peter, that's it.
Annoyed, he brushes his hair over the offending spot. May crosses lithely to the kitchenette, where a grocery bag sits on the counter.
I wasn't meddling. I was just so desperately bored, I thought I'd come over and make you dinner.
She tosses him a fresh apple from the bag. He bites a chunk out of it.
I'm old enough to...
But I didn't feel like getting to know your roaches.
I'll introduce you.
Ick. And those foul chemicals in the pots?
I'm a photographer, remember?
Anyway, I've decided to kidnap you for dinner in Forest Hills.
She grabs her coat, crosses to Peter, and tugs on his shoulder.
It's Friday night.
Yes. Do you have a date?
No.
She pulls his chair toward the door. He gets up laughing.
The record.
It'll shut itself off.
Interior, experimental chamber, night. Waldo withdraws from the gram weight. The cyclotron whirs. A light beams down on the tiny metal cylinder from a crystal focusing cone. Interior, control room, night. Auk chain smokes, half watching the colored particle patterns, scribbling notes. Quick readouts, 80% energy capacity, standard particle acceleration, etc. The mass remains stable at 1.000000. The clock reads 6:34. Exterior, Science Center, night. Thorkel and a worker with a tool belt enter the red brick building. Interior, control room, night. On the computer screen, a single streak glows red and arcs upward with a musical tone. A readout says, "Please avoid system overload, thank you." Auk twists a rheostat to crank up the power. More red streaks and tones. The readout says, "Negative gravitation achieved." Elation fills Octavius. He stands up and takes a deep breath. The digital mass counter fluctuates between 1.00000 to 0.99999. Interior, basement, hallway, night. Thorkel and the worker walk down the hall. Animal noises from behind a door. Interior, control room, night. Auk stands, arms crossed. The readouts are normal again. No tones, no mass fluctuation. Thorkel enters, shielding his eyes. Octavius turns, lifts his goggles.
Anti-gravitational particles.
power down. I need to talk to you.
Proof of a unified field, not just theory and equations. Experimental proof.
Let's talk in the hall.
Interior, basement, hallway, night. The worker crouches, unscrewing a panel near the door. Ignoring this, Octavius crosses to Thorkel a few yards from the door.
In this obsolete little cyclotron, I'm solving the greatest physics problem of the 20th century. With more power, I could...
I've had an extremely bad day, Octavius. A sophomore prank in the library and punitive measure.
Behind them, the worker continues. Thorkel glances at him, keeps stalling.
Then the alumni reports came in, and fundraising is down this year.
I couldn't care less. What I've done is...
The worker looks at Thorkel and nods, walks off. Thorkel follows.
What you've done is make the entire physics department look foolish. You compare yourself to Einstein, your colleagues compare you to Bozo the Clown.
This is the unified field. All the forces of the universe tied together. Perfectly.
Thorkel pauses at the foot of the staircase. His voice echoes down the hall.
You've used up your grant. The electric bills alone exceed your annual salary, not to mention the potential hazards of your radioactive fuel.
I don't care. Cretin.
Ock crosses back to the cyclotron door, pulls out his card key.
You're denied access to the cyclotron.
The lock spits out Ock's card. A red light flashes once. He stares at it in disbelief.
You changed the lock.
Thorkel heads up the stairs. Anger wells up in Ock.
That Nobel Prize will just have to wait.
No!
He bangs his fist on the door, causing the unseen lab animals to scream. Interior, May's living room, night. The sound of fans screaming on a TV baseball game. A refrigerator slams shut off screen. Peter sits on the couch, feet propped on a coffee table. The lower middle-class home reflects May's personality. Her odd landscapes on the wall, crude sculptures, macrame hangings. There's too much furniture, an amalgamation of once trendy pieces dating from the 40s to the present. Ben enters from the kitchen, a can of beer in each hand. Ben is 60, happily overweight, a gentle, good-natured working stiff with a mild Brooklyn accent. He wears trousers, sports shirt, and slippers.
Here you go, Pete.
Uncle Ben,
What? You want a glass?
No, that's okay.
Ben sits back in his comfy chair in the corner with a magazine rack, a row of pipes, and a print of dogs playing poker. He pops open his beer.
So, how's college going?
Same old stuff. How's the pharmacy?
Neighborhood's not what it used to be. Kid no more than 5 swiped a candy bar the other day.
You stop him?
Wasn't worth getting upset over a Milky Way. Anyways, I was never much for, discipline.
I know. Still thinking about retiring?
If I ever get out from under. Well, maybe take May to France or something.
An awkward pause. They both know it'll never happen. They look at the TV.
You still follow the Mets, Pete?
No, not really.
It's funny. When your mom and dad passed away, I had this idea. I wanted you to be the best baseball player in the world.
Remember Little League?
Yeah. Babe Ruth, you wasn't.
They laugh. It's another awkward pause. Peter pops open his beer, sips it distastefully.
You set for, money?
Oh, sure, yeah.
'Cause if you get in a bind...
No.
Yeah. You like to do things on your own. I've been thinking lately, maybe I wasn't the, greatest dad.
Oh, come on. That's not...
No. I mean, your Aunt May not wanting kids and all. I mean, we both...
The front door opens. May enters with a pizza box, looks at Ben's expression.
You're not getting maudlin again.
She crosses to the kitchen. Peter looks relieved.
When you won that scholarship, I was proud of you.
I know.
I'm always here, Pete.
May re-enters, playing an imaginary violin. She flips off the TV, crosses back to the kitchen. Peter and Ben follow. Ben pats Peter's shoulder. Interior May's kitchen, night. Copper pot, strings of garlic. On the table sits a plastic photo cube full of shots of Peter. Baby. Cute kid, geeky, high schooler with glasses and braces. May gets paper plates. Peter stares into the pizza box. Ben opens the fridge for another beer.
What the hell is that?
Tofu. Ben, I wish you wouldn't.
Peter watches Ben as they all sit down to eat. Ben opens the can.
I like beer. Helps take the edge off around here.
Peter changes the subject, points to his geeky high school photo.
Oh, not that. You'd promise you'd burn it.
You were adorable. Oh, the least you could do is use a glass.
Ben sighs and reaches for a piece of pizza.
Absolutely no class.
Funny thing happened after my physics class today. Harry Osborn.
Use a fork.
Ben puts down the pizza, looks at May.
Okay, I'm a slob. You sorry you married so far beneath you?
What do you think?
May looks at Peter.
Match made in heaven.
See? You big dullard.
Ben smiles. May smiles back. Peter isn't smiling. He's refereed too often. Exterior FDR Drive, night. Ox, aged dart, speeds towards downtown Manhattan. Interior Ox car, night. In an alley near ESU, a parked car littered with garbage, school papers, crushed cigarette packs. On the cracked vinyl seat lie the remains of several chopped-up credit cards, all reading Otto Octavius. Ock's hands run a magnet over the scotch-taped composite stripe on an ESU card key. Exterior Science Center, night. 2 physics grad students, Gonky Steve and Asian Lucy, leave the building, laughing. Roz, smiling, locks the door on the way out.
From the paper, you'd think he had an IQ well below plant life.
The theory isn't all that stupid. Just sort of inelegant and ugly and...
Ock climbs the steps. The laughter stops immediately.
Hey, Doc Ock. Speak of the devil.
Otto! Do join us. Chianti and pasta ad anas. Remember that night after your orals when I...
No, thank you. I have work.
I heard about Thorkel's order.
I left a paper in my desk.
You're not planning to publish it, I hope.
With a look, Roz silences the grad's laughter. Ock pays them no mind anyway, goes up the steps, and enters the building. Roz leads the students away, glancing back at Ock with concern. Interior basement hallway, night. Ock crosses to the cyclotron door, inserts the jerry-rigged car key. The lock rejects it. He scratches at the stripe with a house key, reinserts it. Rejected. Ock looks around furtively, pushes and holds it in. This time a green light goes on and the door unlatches. Interior, experimental chamber, night. The cyclotron whines. The beam erupts from the focuser onto the weight. Crawling on the crystal cone, we see the spider from our opening image. Interior, control room. Red patterns on the computer screen with accompanying tones. The digital readout dips below 1.0, flashing slowly descending numbers. A strange, distinctive throb grows louder. Readout.
Approaching negative mass.
Ock watches the chamber intently, thrilled.
Overload. Shut down now, please.
Instead, Ock increases power. Interior experimental chamber. The spider drops on a web strand toward the weight, which pulsates weirdly. Interior control room. The mass indicator near 0. A voltmeter swings into overload. A warning alarm sounds. Readout.
Overload. Damage may result.
Then,
System error. System error. System error.
the warnings fill the screen. On the monitor, the gram weight pulses. The throb gets louder. The spider drops inches from it. Ock, annoyed, seizes the Waldo controls to swipe at the descending spider. Interior, experimental chamber. A Waldo swipes at the spider. Sensing this, the spider drops, alighting on the glowing gram weight. Interior, control room. The mass readout jumps from
0.0000133
up to
1.77349. 012.
On the monitor, the weight spins off the scale in rapid succession. All the dial readouts go mad. The computer screen implodes. Ock's eyes open wide. His face registers ecstasy. The control room glass turns to fluid sucked into the chamber. A yard-wide hole rips open in the cyclotron tube. Ock is thrust against the controls. His shirt rips away. The Waldos flail madly. Steel walls buckle like rubber. Wires snap, shooting sparks. Cyclotron pipes squirm and bend like snakes. pulsing light slashes through everything. In the basement hallway, the light penetrates the walls from the cyclotron room. Doors bang open and close, carts of chemicals spin, lab animals scream, walls and objects warp together, surrealistic. In the experimental chamber, as suddenly as the effects begin, they cease. Dead silence. The spider, glowing slightly, scuttles across the floor. Interior control room, tight on Ock, lying on the floor in the eerie dim light. He opens his eyes. The room around him looks melted, dials, monitors, and switches distorted as in a funhouse mirror. A chair fused into a wall, the door twisted, rippled. Ock looks down, fascinated. The extended metallic Waldo tentacles curl on the floor. We follow the length of one of them to its new source. It joins with Ock's torso. All 4 Waldos penetrate the flesh of Ock's bare chest and belly. Octavius shrieks. Warped and weird, Ock's scream echoes and dies. Exterior Science Center day, undamaged on the outside, surrounded by NYPD patrol cars, fire trucks, sedans marked Nuclear Regulatory Commission, EPA vans, and a single ambulance. Police search Ock's Dart as a tow truck prepares to take it. Construction workers erect plywood barriers around the building over windows. Police lines hold back a crowd of reporters, students, and gawkers. J. Jonah Jameson himself pushes to the front of the throng. 2 guards hustle out to a news photographer. Jameson collars the man.
Get anything good?
The photographer shakes his head. Jameson flings his cigar to the sidewalk. Ashen, Thorkel exits the science center, addresses the crowd.
Please, all of you go home. There's nothing to report here.
Oh, that's a load of crap.
A barrage of ad-lib questions. We heard there was an explosion.
Was it terrorism? A meltdown. Was it a meltdown?
Nuclear accident?
No, please.
I bet it was genetic engineering. You guys are making mutants in there?
Peter, curious, makes his way toward Jameson.
There was a boiler explosion. Only minor damage.
Why the ambulance? Who was hurt?
Just a custodian. We haven't as yet reached the family.
Was he killed?
No, please. Nothing more I can say at this time.
Thorkel re-enters the building. Police hold reporters back who scream questions.
You taking extension classes, Mr. Jameson?
Parker! You go here, right? Got your camera?
Yeah.
Get inside and get pictures. $50.
Can we make it 100?
70. But I want blood and gore. You know, sexy stuff.
Peter nods, pulls his Nikon from his pack, and hands the pack to Jameson. Exterior Science Center alley, day. Peter tears his pants on the top of a cyclone fence, falls in a graceless heap. Cursing,
God damn it. Ow.
He checks the camera for damage, gets to his feet with pain. An unmarked white van blocks the far end of the alley. A fire door opens to the science center. Peter ducks behind a dumpster. 2 men in radiation suits carry out a small stretcher. Atop it, a vision from a nightmare. A whimpering dog fused with a wire cage. While the men load it into the van, Peter limps through the fire door and inside. Interior basement hallway, day. Architectural angles skewed. Walls and doors melted and resolidified as a result of the experiment. Voices of various officials filter down the hall. Peter stays out of sight, snapping pictures.
Could be called burglary, but the department relinquishes jurisdiction.
Practical applications for defense.
Jesus, those animals.
Roz accompanies 2 paramedics wheeling a sheet-covered body on a gurney up the hall. Peter sees that it's Ock, snaps a photo, then ducks into the men's room. Interior men's room, day. Like a Dali, urinals compressed and stretched, porcelain sinks twisted, stalls fused with sloped floor and gnarled plumbing. Peter enters, sweeping away the strands of a spider's web. Through the door, he hears the gurney roll by.
Never seen something so weird.
Oh, I have. In '69, we was up in Boston, tripping our brains out.
Please.
Their voices recede. A squeak at Peter's feet startles him. He looks down to see a white lab rat melded to its exercise wheel, struggling pathetically across the tile floor. Peter reacts, focuses his camera on it. Above Peter's head, the still glowing spider drops from its twisted web on a strand. It lands unnoticed on his hand and bites.
Ow! Ow!
Peter slaps his hand, but the spider drops onto the floor, ceases to glow. Its limbs contract in death. Peter drops his camera as a wave of nausea hits him.
Oh.
He braces against a sink,
What?
sees his image in a twisted mirror drenched in sweat, his face flushed red. A guard pushes the door open behind him.
Hey, what are you doing in here?
I was thinking about to throw up, but...
The guard grabs the dazed Peter and hustles him out. Exterior Science Center day. The guard pushes Peter out the door. Sounds of the crowd and city are a muddled roar to Peter, and he's not limping anymore.
My ankle doesn't hurt.
Good for you. Stay out of here.
The guard shoves him past the police line where Jameson approaches him.
Okay, kid, what you got?
Peter, dizzy, tries to rewind the film. In the background, medics load Ock into the ambulance.
I can't focus.
Give me that. Pick it up later.
He snatches the camera, stuffs it into Peter's backpack, heads off. Peter lifts his glasses to rub his eyes. From Peter's POV, the world comes into sharp, precise focus. Peter shakes himself, looks through the glasses again, then puts them in his pocket. He heads unsteadily down the street, away from the dwindling crowd. Exterior, Greenwich Village Street, day. Still woozy, Peter starts across the street. The ambulance barrels towards him. The siren suddenly wails above the urban din. Peter turns to see the bumper only feet away. Instinctively, he jumps up, out of frame. The ambulance speeds on its way. Exterior, brick building day. Close on Peter's face, pressed against the bricks, eyes closed, breathing hard. He opens his eyes, regaining his senses. Puzzlement, then fear. He looks down. The sidewalk is 15 feet below him. He's clinging flat against the wall, palms at his side against the bricks. Peter whimpers. A tremor in his hand. He reaches to pull himself upward. He tries for a toe hold. Brick crumbles beneath his feet. He swings wildly, but his fingertips hold him against the building's face. He looks at his fingers, his hand. The spider bite glows faintly under his skin. Tentatively at first, he inches upward with growing confidence. He crawls up the wall to the roof of the 10-story structure. Exterior, rooftop, day. Unlike the claustrophobic streets below, sky and space around. At the ledge, Peter clutches an iron vent pipe to pull himself up. It crunches in his grip. He clambers to the flat roof and regards the pipe, the dizzying height. He looks around him, wondering if he's lost his mind. He sits down near the ledge.
This is very strange.
He rubs the back of his hand. The glow of the spider bite vanishes. Getting slowly to his feet, he stretches, flexes his muscles. His body feels somehow different. He shrugs, then jumps straight up, about 15 feet, as if from a trampoline. He lands agilely. Confusion turns to elation. He leaps to the roof access door, clings to it, and crawls to the top of the small shack. New York stretches in every direction. The sun peeks out from behind the clouds. Peter laughs. It's pure exhilaration. He leaps from the access door and runs at full speed across the roof, enjoying his body. At the ledge, he leaps into space and lands atop the sloped roof of the next building. Peter keeps jumping with the same heady freedom. Another leap, this time pirouetting in midair over a 50-story drop. The next jump, he lands upside down on the side of a building, clinging and kicking his feet in the air. More laughter.
Oh my god.
A preteen pigeon keeper turns from his cooing birds. Peter dashes by him and leaps from the building. Stunned, the kid walks out of the coop, leaving the door open. The birds fly out in a flurry. Peter slides down a high telephone cable across an alley between buildings. Exterior construction site, day. Atop an unfinished building sit stacks of iron girders and 2x4s. Peter tests his strength, imitating Bruce Lee, attacking the boards and splintering them easily.
Yeah!
He leaps and grabs the hook of a construction crane, swings on it like Tarzan.
Woo!
Exterior Manhattan Street, day. A mother wheels a 2-year-old girl in an open pram past the construction site. The kid sucks a bottle, looks up. The little girl's eyes follow. Peter, swinging on the hook, He drops and scampers down the building skeleton. The little girl takes out her bottle and giggles. Exterior phone booth day. Peter drops a quarter into the slot of the outdoor phone bay. His finger finds poison control on a stick-on list of emergency phone numbers.
Poison emergency?
Hi, I've got this sort of hypothetical question. Do you suppose that the bite of a radioactive spider would transmit that spider's proportional strength and agility?
Is this some sort of Zen thing?
I mean, I suddenly have immense physical power and the ability to crawl up walls.
Do you? Let me give you the number for Bellevue. That's 561-5151.
Yeah, a psychiatric hospital. Listen, I'm serious.
I'm sure. They handle problems like yours all the time.
Have a nice day.
He hangs up and crawls up the wall. Interior, operating room, day. Dr. Crawford and assistants, gowned and masked, look below frame at the patient. Ock. They attempt to remain clinical, but we see their horror.
Again, hydraulics and electronics melded with dorsal tissue, ganglia, organs. Jesus, God, this is nuts.
Can't those things be removed somehow?
Not without killing him.
Into a tray, forceps drop a short length of cable entwined with nerve ganglia.
6 hours to get that much.
What was he mucking around with?
Interior experimental chamber day. Work lights illuminate the room. Cascades of melted glass, a hole in the cyclotron tube, a tangle of wires and metal at the transformer. An NRC man with lead gloves and boots explores the room. Roz watches from the control room, going over Ock's notes.
Octavius's notes are pretty impenetrable.
Whatever he was up to, it was new. Look.
He pushes a gloved finger into the metallic wall. It's soft and rubbery. Thorkel enters the control room, paces, and fiddles around. They ignore him.
This was steel.
Unbelievable. How do I explain this to the trustees?
Temperature?
Cool.
Damn him. Look at this. Expensive property. Ruined.
He throws a switch. Nothing happens.
Thorkel, stop that. Radiation levels.
Normal.
Do you know how much this will cost to repair?
He angrily throws another switch. The damaged cyclotron squeals and throbs once. Roth pushes the stunned Thorkel away and shuts the cyclotron off.
Oh my.
The NRC man ducks as a pulse of energy shoots from the focusing cone to the transmitter and rushes visibly along the cables.
Good Lord.
Exterior railroad tracks day. The L between stations, electrical hum of overheard wires, the rumble of an approaching Long Island train. The pulse ripples through the power lines. Interior commuter train day. A light Saturday crowd, including the grad student Steve, absorbed in an epic magazine. As usual, the stiff suburbanites ignore each other. Exterior railroad tracks day. Overhead lines pulse and throb as in the experiment. A mirage-like shimmer hangs in the air. The commuter car whizzes forward into the shimmer and disappears. Interior commuter train. Through the dirty windows, the weird pulse and throb. The passengers ignore it. A few work their way to the doors for the next stop. A whoosh and a thud as the train stops abruptly. Pulse dissolving into daylight. The doors hiss open. The passengers look out timidly. They see a snowy plain.
What the heck?
Oh my goodness.
A fur-clad Mongolian peasant with a yak stares back at them. Exterior Mongolian wasteland day. Reveal the L train lying incongruously amidst the desolate landscape. Exterior Times Square day. The marquees, traffic, and lights. The rolling news sign reads, Long Island train disappears. Perched atop the sign high above it all, Peter scans the scene, arms folded looking down. He sees a cheesy theater sign. Battle a monster, $1,000 for 1 minute with Hulk Hogan. Contestants line up outside. Exterior theater entrance day. Beneath the marquee, a dozen large men stand in line. Crowd noise from within. Peter takes a place behind a Rambo type in bandana and fatigues and a goon wearing a narrow burglar mask, striped shirt and cap.
What for the mask?
Don't want to look stupid.
Yeah, you might lose your scholarship.
Is that a joke?
Peter slowly shakes his head. He glances across the street and spies Leiber's novelties, toys, jokes, costumes. Interior wrestling arena day. Thump! Rambo flies down on the mat. Hogan pins him. The crowd cheers. Near the ring, a new wave Amazon official cocks her head at Peter, who wears a rubber fly mask with huge compound eyes and antennae.
You look kind of scrawny for this.
Peter flexes his muscles, none too impressively. She hands him a release form.
Says you won't sue us if you get killed.
Peter signs the release. She reads it and shrugs.
Okay, Mr. Thorkel. I trust ya. You got an honest face.
Peter bows. Rambo crawls out of the ring. Peter bounds over the ropes onto the mat. Hogan looks at the fly-masked contestant, then leads the crowd in derision.
Get out of here!
The large digital 1-minute clock buzzes. Peter gestures come hither with both hands. Hogan grins and evilly roars. Lunging across the mat, dwarfing the skinny kid, Peter dodges the blonde giant, leaping and spinning aside acrobatically. The crowd boos, demanding action.
Come on already!
At ringside near the Amazon, Max Reese watches with interest. Reese is a world-weary, balding agent, none too successful, judging from his unpressed suit. Hogan laughs and goes for Peter again. This time he tosses the wrestler. Hard. He lifts Hogan up over his head and slams him to the mat. Carrying the flailing giant under his arm, Peter scales a ring post. The clock ticks off the last few seconds. He dangles Hogan by his boot toe like a prize trout.
Now tell me you love me.
Let me down, bugface!
That's not even close.
Peter drops Hogan face first on the mat as the buzzer sounds. The unruly crowd boos and hisses. Hogan rolls over on the mat in pain, his nose bleeding. Peter leaps down, genuinely concerned. He puts his hand on Hogan's shoulder.
Are you okay?
Oh, get away from me, brother!
Exterior, alley, day. Still masked, Peter exits the back door, counting 10 $100 bills. The door opens again and Reese rushes out, fumbling for a business card.
Kid, you were terrific. Max Reese, Novelty X. Was that judo or something? Skip it. Question is, can you do it again?
Oh, I don't know. Thanks, Mr. Reese, but...
Peter reads the business card while Reese sums him up.
I don't know about the mask. Might want to get something sexier. People don't like bugs.
The door slams open. Hogan strides out, bruised and furious. He walks over to Peter. Reese backs off. Hogan lumbers over to Peter. 2 ominous beats.
How you doing, kid?
Oh, look, Mr. Hogan, I'm really sorry about what happened in there. Really,
You can be great, kid. Just stick with it. But let me give you one little piece of advice. Be a good guy, brother.
Right.
Hogan gives Peter a big smile and heads back into the building. Peter heads off, and Reese calls after him.
Numbers on the card. Call me.
Interior Leiber's novelty shop, day. Toys, games, costumes everywhere. Leiber, a sharp-eyed man with a suspicious twinkle, watches Peter, still in the bug mask, finish a sketch. A bodysuit with a web design and a spider on the chest.
No refund on the mask, you know. Health loss.
Uh-huh. Look, this should be skin tight. Bright colors, red, maybe a deep midnight blue.
What is this, a cockroach?
A spider. 8 legs.
Leiber looks at the fly-headed Peter, who has spotted a loud, trendy jacket, like a red leopard skin, on a nearby sale rack. He holds it up to himself.
Week from tomorrow?
How about tomorrow?
You're making my life difficult.
2 suits by tomorrow for $400?
And even 5, I throw in the jacket.
Deal. But don't tell anyone. I want to keep a low profile.
Leiber nods seriously. The bug-headed Peter exits, jacket in a bag under his arms.
Mashugana.
Interior, Ox hospital room, dusk. Dr. Crawford and a brain man stand at Ock's bedside. A snide orderly lets the sheet down on Ock's body. A sponge and pan on a tray. Wires, IVs, EEG monitors.
Still comatose. Alpha, beta, gamma brain waves low. But look.
He points to an oscilloscope, tracing a lively wave.
Normally there's no activity at this wavelength. It's like there's a party going on in there.
Malfunction?
Well, not in the equipment.
He's all washed, Doc. You want me to polish his chrome, too?
The doctor's icy stares caught the orderly's guffaw. They all leave. Crawford flips off the light. Ock remains immobile. In the dim evening light, a metal arm rustles beneath the sheet. Exterior, ESU, dorm, night. Peter, whistling, takes steps 2 at a time into the Georgian building, which faces Washington Square Park. He won't wear the glasses from this point on. Interior, ESU dorm, night. Peter, looking crushed, talks with Liz's roommate, Adele, an overweight black girl. She leans against the open door, a cat under her arm. The room beyond features 2 beds, 2 desks, many plants, a big poster of Che Guevara on one side, a Botticelli and a shelf of well-loved dolls on the other.
I'm writing marks to her dolls while she's away.
New Hampshire?
Yeah. Flash's family has a ski cabin. Come the revolution, there'll be no more ski cabins.
Peter's disappointment is gut-wrenching. He turns and Adele scolds herself for telling the truth. Exterior, ESU, dorm, night. Peter slouches down the steps. He kicks at a garbage can. It flies and crashes into the street. Interior, Peter's apartment, night. A soppy Tony Bennett song plays as Peter fidgets on the bed, staring at an open astronomy text. He gets up, grabs an apple, then dials a memorized number.
Hi, Ben is... Thanks. Hi, Aunt May. Wait, you'll appreciate this. The most bizarre thing... Just an apple. I know, but let me... Yeah, fascinating. No, let me talk. But I can make the rent now. Damn it, Aunt May, listen for once. You know that's not what I mean. No, you're not a cow. Right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Fine, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
He hangs up in frustration, looks at the phone.
By the way, I got superpowers today.
He throws the half-eaten apple towards the garbage can. It misses. Interior, Ock's hospital room, day. Morning light spills through the window. Roz sits at Ock's bedside. Ock now sits up, eyes wide, abnormally alert, an unlit cigarette in his mouth. The Waldos are immobile beneath the sheets.
Truth. I lifted the veil. Total interpenetrational of physical forces, dimensions unknown since the birth of the cosmos.
Roz lights Ock's cigarette, eyes him dubiously. Ock doesn't bother to smoke it.
A bit melodramatic, but if you could prove it, that would tie in your unified field theory, the Big Bang, Kaluza-Klein.
Theories. This was first-hand experimental knowledge, the essence of the universe.
Roz begins to sense the man's madness.
But at what cost, Otto? You barely survived a coma, and look at yourself.
Roz glances at Ock's sheeted torso.
My self. I don't matter. This human life, all life, insignificant bodies, bags of sleepy flesh.
All right, we may be insignificant, imperfect creatures, but we're all we've got.
You're wrong. Just for a moment, I heard, saw, felt. I became creation.
Creation, or its opposite?
Ock takes the cig from his mouth, stares at the smoldering end.
Truth. Pure. Eternal. Beyond the boundaries of mere mortality.
Roz regards Ock sadly, takes the cigarette and extinguishes it.
Otto, we are mere mortals. You must never forget your own limits.
I'll repeat the experiment. I will hold the truth. That's the only thing that matters.
No, it isn't.
He moves in closer, trying to see past Ock's madness. He speaks quietly but firmly.
Life and death matter. Yours, everyone's. By comparison, our search for truth is only a product of curiosity, a game.
Oh, Roz. My mind is so far beyond yours now. I could beat you at chess now.
Roz realizes Ock is beyond communication, off the deep end. A knock, and Thorkel enters, smiling.
Gentlemen, Professor, if you could.
Roz sighs and rises.
I was just leaving. Please, Otto, be careful.
Roz exits. Thorkel stands at the foot of the bed, leans on the bedpost.
It's good to see you awake. Feeling all right?
Ock ignores him. Thorkel gives him a lemony smile.
Then you'll be glad to know the university has decided not to press criminal charges against you. Breaking and entering, the minor matter of the total destruction of a $23 million cyclotron.
I will finish what I've begun.
Doubtless. And you'll have all the time in the world to pursue your work. Somewhere else.
Ock's eyes narrow. Thorkel smiles.
To put it bluntly, Octavius, your history. Fired, canned, out on your ass. The university will take care of your medical bills, but I consider that a small price to pay for the pleasure of getting rid...
Without warning, a steel Waldo shoots out from beneath the sheet and clutches Thorkel by the throat. His smirk turns into a grimace as the arm lifts him off the floor, pushing the man up near the ceiling. Amazed, Ock looks along the Waldo from his chest to the choking Thorkel. Ock touches the metal arm curiously as the man gasps for breath. Thorkel's feet kick wildly, then go limp. Ock drops the body. Ock gets out of bed, stands over Thorkel's body. An arm telescopes outward. The claw opens and shuts experimentally. Ock nods in growing pleasure. Another arm draws the curtains. A third arm shoots out and kicks the door locked. The fourth arm delicately clicks off the electronic monitors. Ock clenches and relaxes his human hands. The mechanical arms writhe like cobras. He smiles. Interior, surgeon's dressing room, day. A locker room. A fat doctor hangs up his overcoat, takes a lab smock. Hanging in the locker is a green and yellow jogging suit. As he puts the smock on, a Waldo snakes around a corner into the locker. It takes the overcoat and jogging suit. Interior, medical incinerator, day. Flames through the open grate cast weird shadows on Ock, who is now dressed in the overcoat and jogging suit with holes torn out for the Waldos. He grabs the grate's handle, burns himself, backs over Thorkel's glasses with a crunch. He tosses them into the fire. A Waldo closes the grate. Interior, Peter's apartment, day. In his bathrobe at the kitchen table, Peter squeezes the contents of a tube of superglue into a beaker, then heats the viscous goop over a Bunsen burner, stirring it. A microscope, several empty glue tubes, jars of thinner, and vials of powder lie about. Midday, Peter tears open a bag from a sporting goods store, dumps out several reels of high-strength fishing line, and boxes of miniature gas cartridges. Afternoon, fast food wrappers, chemical supplies, and lengths of thin rubber tubing. Peter uses adhesive tape to secure his web shooter. A pouch of glue under his arms, a tube down his forearm ending with a short metal nozzle at the heel of his hand. A watch band thin reel of line around his wrist with a tiny gas cartridge, a pressure-sensitive button in his palm. Peter extends his arm toward the far wall, bends his wrist, presses the trigger with his middle finger. A hideous wad of goo oozes all over his hand and explodes through the tubing. He's grossed out.
Ugh. Yeah. Ugh.
Over the Bunsen burner again, Peter mixes more glue, thinner this time. Wads of failed line and glue stick to the walls like linguini. Peter tries again. He aims at the ceiling. A long stream of glue-impregnated line spits out and attaches to the ceiling with a splat. Peter tugs at it. It holds. He climbs up it, hand over hand, and hangs from the ceiling. He beams with success. Exterior Science Center, day. The front door. A Waldo reaches into frame, snaps the lock and chain with a metal claw. Interior control room, day. Ock, from this point forward only seen in jogging suit, surveys the damaged and flips on the cyclotron. A single blue pulse and throb. The Waldos block a shower of sparks. Interior ESU dorm, day. Reading Cosmo beneath a Shea poster, Adele looks up. The TV has turned itself on, loudly flipping from channel to channel. From off-screen comes the buzz of Liz's blow dryer and a blast of air. The dryer levitates, whirling around, then pulls its cord from the socket and plummets to the bed. Freaked out, Adele hurries to the door. Screams from the other dorm rooms.
It's crazy!
Students hurry into the hall and down the steps. Light bulbs shatter. Vacuum cleaners race around. The hands of a wall clock spin crazily. Exterior Washington Square Park, day. Playing chess with an aged partner, Roz sees students rush out of their dorm, some panicked, others amused. Ad-lib explanations like,
Goddamn Conrad!
A kid's ghetto blaster rises from his shoulder and spins in midair, then explodes. Manhole covers shiver. They spin out of the pavement like flying saucers and hover in midair, then drop to the earth with clang in unison. Roz watches it all with scientific interest.
Your move.
Interior control room day, an electrical mess, sparks, ozone. Ock backs away from the sizzling control panel. Waldo throws a switch to shut the cyclotron down. Disgusted, he storms out. Interior, Peter's apartment day. Atop Peter's mattress sits an open box marked Leiber's Novelties, with one Spider-Man costume inside. Wearing the other costume but no mask, Peter stands before a full-length mirror. He tugs at the tight suit, feeling pretty silly. Peter pulls the mask over his face. He puffs out his chest.
In this corner, the human spider. Oh, no. Arachnid. Arachnia. No. Spider-Man?
In the mirror, the reflected image of Spider-Man nods. Exterior, Peter's roof, dusk, city lights in the distance. Peter's rangefinder camera sits on a tripod by the open skylight. The self-timer hums. The camera clicks and flashes, catching Spider-Man in action. Swinging on web strands, clinging to the walls, leaping through the air. Spider-Man jumps back and fiddles with the camera. Then a knock from below. Interior, Peter's apartment, night. Loud thumps on the door. Spider-Man drops through the skylight, moves to answer, then hesitates. He pulls off his gloves and mask. More thumps, rhythmic.
Cool your jets.
Exterior, hallway, night. Harry sits in Peter's doorway, thumping his head backwards against the door. As Peter, in sweater and jeans, opens the door, the drunk kid sprawls on his back. Harry stares foggily at the red-webbed boots beside his face.
Ooh, your feet are on fire.
Harry
Osborn diminishes the stature of the university.
Let me guess. The hunting dogs. You lost your scholarship?
Peter lifts Harry upright, sits cross-legged beside him.
Scholarship students must maintain dignity at all time.
I know. I've got one too.
Screw scholarships. Universities are death. They make slaves of us all with their fetid ideas. Burn them down, I say.
Peter lifts Harry up, leaning him against the door jamb.
Great idea. Let me get some shoes. I'll take you home.
Why home? The real world beckons, man. The possibilities are endless. Hey, want to go up to Jersey Trade Center and laugh at the New World?
Peter, wearing shoes and jacket, locks his doors. He leads Harry to the stairwell.
You're so responsible. It's disgusting. But you're my only friend. Do you hate me?
Don't be pitiful.
Hey, I am not pitiful. I am the bridge to the Ubermensch.
Harry goes pale, grabs his stomach. Peter holds him by the staircase.
Don't vomit on my shoes, Zarathustra.
Exterior, Electrodyne factory, day. A salesman with a clipboard leads the overcoated Ock through a cavernous storage hangar. Sections of aluminum pipe, spools of wire, etc. Workers and forklifts unload and stack crates.
Okay, let's see. 3,000 feet of 50-gauge copper armature wire, a transformer, accelerator rails, a few odds and ends.
Ock points to a pipe section.
And that.
What's the deal? A do-it-yourself atom smasher? A couple of high school whiz kids came in here once planning to build their own neutron bomb. Blueprints, the whole 9 yards. Wanted to be the first ones on their block to be the last ones on their block, you know what I mean?
Ock stares at him. He goes back to his clipboard, clears his throat.
Okie dokie. Then that's, figure about $170,000 plus tax.
Ock frowns at the man.
Well, you do have to pay for it.
The bulge under Ock's coat moves ominously. His face darkens. He's about to kill the salesman. Then notices there are too many witnesses about.
Are you okay?
Money.
He turns on his heel and strides away. Interior Bugle newsroom, day, a sluggish Monday morning. Peter enters briskly with his new jacket slung over his shoulder, an 8x10 envelope in his hand. He pauses outside Jameson's door, near Betty's desk. There's an air of cockiness to Peter, and Betty senses it.
Is His Eminence receiving?
Uh-huh. And may God go with you, my son.
Interior Jameson's office, day. Jameson, cigar in his teeth, smiles at the bizarre photos, the rat melded with its cage, the distorted hallway. Peter examines his Nikon.
I bet you don't think I appreciate you, Parker. I do.
Well, thanks. You wouldn't believe what I went through to get those. Right after you took my camera, this ambulance...
I like enthusiasm. That's why I use a lot of smart-ass kids. Not just because they work cheap.
Mr. Jameson,
I got a question, college boy. What the hell am I supposed to do with these? I ask for disaster, pathos. What do I get? Salvador Dali. When I want artsy-fartsy double exposure, I'll ask for it.
Double exposures? But they're not. I was in...
I don't give a gerbil's ass how you got them. I can't print this surreal garbage.
You want print pictures of Bigfoot?
Bunch of kids at your goddamn college say their appliances attack them. Did you get pictures?
Mr. Jameson,
No. Washington Square, manhole covers turn into flying saucers, and radios explode like A-bombs. Did you get pictures?
Can I get a word in edgewise?
No! Now get out of my face, kid.
Jameson thrusts the photos back at Peter, who pulls the photo from the manila envelope. Spider-Man clinging upside down on a wall.
I suppose this wouldn't interest you?
Jameson turns the photo around, trying to figure it out. He looks up at Peter, holds his gaze, and then tears the photo in half. Both halves flutter into the wastebasket. Interior Bugle newsroom, day. Peter with his pack quietly closes the door of Jameson's office. Betty rises.
How about a cup of coffee?
Yeah, cream and hemlock.
Peter sits on the edge of her desk as she walks off. A thought hits him. He pulls Reese's business card from his wallet and dials the number.
Hello, Mr. Reese? I'm the guy who wrestled Hulk Hogan the other day. The guy in the mask.
I was hoping you'd call, babe. Look, you got representation?
No.
Good. We'll make it oral for now. Meet me at Rockefeller Center at 6 tonight.
Why? It's a wrestling match, or...
Letterman show, NBC. We'll talk then. Bye.
Betty returns with his coffee. Peter slowly returns the receiver to its cradle.
Good news?
Peter ignores the coffee, pulling on his jacket, his mind reeling.
Hey, Ma, I'm gonna be a star.
He bangs on Jameson's window and throws him a raspberry. Exterior Science Center, day. Boarded up and locked. Students gather around a list of rescheduled courses. Peter finds Physics 101 canceled until further notice. Exterior basketball court, day. A fenced court near campus. A vigorous game of 2-on-2. Flash and 3 preppy pals, Norbert, Chip, and Winthrop. Flash dribbles angrily down court, shoots, misses. He's pissed.
Frustrated, Thompson?
Miss Lizzie done had a headache all weekend long.
Shut up!
New jacket on, Peter approaches. He scales the wire fence gracefully and hops onto the court. Sets down his pack. They ignore him.
Mind if I shoot a few?
Peter, you don't play basketball.
We've got even teams.
No, Norb, let's give Dr. J here a shot.
He flings the ball towards Peter, hard.
Come on, guy.
Peter bounces the ball experimentally, then dribbles towards the basket. Flash nods to Winthrop, who elbows Peter and knocks the ball away. Flash gets it. Peter blocks Flash legally, but Flash jumps up, makes a basket, and purposely kicks Peter in the belly. Flash grins at Peter, who doubles over to catch his wind. Norb recovers the ball, passes to Chip, who passes to Peter. Winthrop covers him, giving him a rough time, smiling. Peter smiles right back, shoulders Winthrop, sending him flying backwards into Norb. They both fall backward. Peter dashes for the hoop. Flash hooks Peter's ankle to trip him, but Peter jumps up, flipping Flash to the concrete. He leaps for a layup, clinging with his fingertips to the backboard for a second and slam dunks the basketball. He drops to earth with a spring.
Thanks, guys.
He grabs his pack, leaving by the gate. The 4 preppies stare at him. Interior Student Union, day. A super modern cafeteria with video games, bulletin boards, and an atrium. Alone, Peter sips his coffee, reading the Times, the remains of a salad before him. Liz and Adele join him with their lunch trays.
Eat alone, gotta read. Social Defense Tactic 17. Peter, that jacket is foul. Lose your glasses?
Hi, Adele.
Adele looks at him, then at Liz.
Brr. It's colder than New Hampshire in here.
I'm sure you kept warm.
Sexual tension.
Oh, beware of jealousy, my lord, the green-eyed monster.
Don't misquote Othello at me. Besides, you have to care about someone to strangle them.
What's your problem?
I've got no problems.
Time to get my bowling ball re-drilled.
Peter Parker, you have no idea what I did this weekend. Or didn't do. It's no business of yours either way.
Peter zips up his pack, rises.
Sit down and stop being such a child.
This is from a girl who still plays with dolls?
That wasn't clever. That was just nasty.
Peter heads off. Liz dumps her glass of milk over her plate and stifles a scream. Interior, Roz's office, day. An old room in the library building. Star charts and an ancient sextant, books, a telescope, a large revolving model of the solar system, and an antique spinning wheel and a harpsichord. Odd, but inviting. Roz leans over a large table examining a precise New York City street and subway map. He glances at a news clipping. Bronx Video Arcade goes tilt. With a colored marker and a protractor, he traces a curved line on the map through the Bronx street. Other waveform lines in different colors crisscross the map.
The Bronx is up and the battery's down.
Roz turns with a distracted smile.
Peter, what can I do for you?
An extension on that astronomy paper, because,
Your dog ate it.
Actually, I got this spider bite.
Pretty lame for such a smart kid.
Really, Professor,
Roz turns back to his map.
You have until tomorrow. Skip the excuses.
Peter picks up one of the news clippings. Wall crawler spotted across New York, and another LRRR train detours to Mongolia. Roz notices Peter's interest.
14 phenomena. Anomalies in our so-called reality. Weirdness, my boy, and lots of it.
Caused by Doc Ock's experiment?
How much do you know about it?
Not a lot. I saw the inside of the Science Center. What exactly happened?
Only Octavius knows for sure. And last time I spoke to him, he was on the planet Whizbang.
Lucy enters with a computer printout. Roz compares it with an earlier one.
See? With enough energy on this side of the equation, the slope approaches infinity.
Roz scribbles several numbers on a pad, hands the page to her.
Run it again with these smaller values.
Why bother? Nobody takes Ox's equation seriously.
I do. Run it again, please.
She shrugs with her eyebrows and leaves.
Need any more help?
No, thank you. I'm sure you've got your own problems.
Roz reviews the printout, and as Peter turns to leave...
Peter, that is one god-awful jacket.
Exterior, bank, day. In front of the First National Bank of Scarsdale, a uniformed guard climbs the steel doors of a Brinks truck. He climbs in the cab beside a driver.
Is that the last pickup?
Sounds good. We'll be done in half hour.
Not at this rate.
The driver revs the motor. It's not moving. The guard unsnaps his holster. Without warning, two Waldos smash through the thick glass on both sides. Exterior, bank, day. Ock holds the truck aloft by the rear bumper. The rear wheels spin. Two other Waldos surround the truck, squirming into the cab. Gunshots and panic screams from within. With his fourth Waldo, Ock tears open the rear door and grabs several money bags with his hands. In the bank, witnesses stared, goggle-eyed. A teller pulls the drapes for protection. Interior, computer room, day. Low ceilings, terminals, whirring air conditioning. The clicking of students entering data. Roz enters uncomfortable and claustrophobic here. Roz crosses to Harry at a snazzy graphics terminal.
So I've drawn up your graphics, but what is this all about anyway?
Just a theory. Let's see it.
Harry strikes a few keys, runs the program.
Okay, so I hope I'll get some brownie points for this. I could really use them.
I'll do what I can.
On screen, a graphic of stars in space.
So, standard chart of our cosmic neighborhood, and
The graphic zooms quickly in on the solar system, Earth, then an aerial view of the northeastern U.S.
Home sweet home. First, your original set of values.
Bluish pulses appear sporadically in a spiral in the New York area, then stop. Computer-generated tones like the throb of Ock's experiment.
Sporadic pulses petering out in 96 hours or so. But when we crank up the energy variable, we get 3 distinct phases.
He pushes a button. The screen clears and resets.
Phase 1, the same pulses. If the energy input keeps rising and we reach a critical point here into...
The spiral flashes as before. The spiral pulses multiply and coalesce, forming a blue funnel over New York, growing and intensifying.
Phase 2. An energy vacuum sucking power into itself. If it gets enough juice, we go into phase 3, chain reaction. Here's where it gets good.
The image pulls back for a wider view as North America, the Earth, the solar system, then the surroundings starts to implode and dissolve into the blue pulse.
Zap! Big Bang in reverse. End of the universe. This would make one hell of a video game.
Roz's face registers growing dread. Interior, subway platform, night. Passengers pour out of an uptown tunnel. A sign in the background reads 49th Street, Rockefeller Center. Peter edges away from the crowd toward the end of the platform, looks around, then hops down into the train bed, jogs into the tunnel. Interior, subway tunnel, night. Peter looks up, then springs backwards, head over heels, and lands upside down, feet clinging to the grimy tunnel ceiling. He starts to unbutton his shirt. We see the Spider-Man costume. Coins fall from his pants and clang on the rails below. Peter mutters to himself.
Oh, come on.
Pulls the mask over his face. On Peter's clothes, Spider-Man squirts a stream of webbing to tie up the bundled clothes. A train approaches. Spider-Man nonchalantly attaches the stick bundled to the ceiling. Exterior, Rockefeller Center, night. Spider-Man emerges from the subway, strolls towards Rockefeller Plaza. A pedestrian mutters,
"What an asshole."
And Spider-Man's walk becomes tentative, embarrassed. A child.
Look, Mommy, the circus.
Another bypasser.
Excellent.
Spider-Man's walk becomes more self-assured. Interior, TV studio, night. Backstage hubbub. Reese and Spider-Man wait in the wings. A female AD nearby. A mix of live and filtered sound from the stage. A monitor shows David Letterman watching a stupid human trick. A man playing music on his teeth.
Where'd you get the clown suit?
Like it?
Nah, the big mask was better.
10 seconds.
The AD leads the nervous Spider-Man toward the curtain. Reese watches the monitor, where we see Letterman reading from a card.
But wait, there's more. Arachnid lovers everywhere. Here's the amazing Spider-Man. How about a round of applause, kids?
On stage, as Spider-Man shuffles out from behind a curtain, the tight costume earns him surprised whoops from the audience. Letterman shakes Spidey's hand, then winces at his sticky palm.
Ooh, is that bug juice, or are you just glad to see me?
Sorry, I'm still getting the hang of this.
I see. So, Amazing Spider-Man, I'll assume that's not your given name.
Just call me Spidey.
Can I get you a snack? Housefly, maybe.
Thanks. I already ate.
I'll hate myself in the morning for asking, but what exactly makes you more amazing than the average jerk on the street?
Well...
He leaps straight up, somersaulting in midair, and sticks on a Klieg light lattice. The audience reacts, suitably impressed. Letterman cocks his head.
Oh boy, must come in handy for changing light bulbs.
Spider-Man shoots a long strand of webbing to the ceiling above the audience.
And for my next impression, Errol Flynn.
He swings out over the boggled crowd and clings to a wall. Even Letterman is dumbstruck, leans cross-armed against his desk. Spidey does a horizontal dance.
Hold it. Are you a shill for Velcro?
The cameras swirl to track Spider-Man as he sinks back to the stage. Letterman sits on the edge of his desk, shakes his head.
Ta-da!
The band reprises Spidey's ta-da! The audience cheers. Spidey bows.
That really is like his name.
All right, amazing. Are you quite finished?
Just about. You see, I also have this amazing strength.
With one hand, Spider-Man lifts the desk and Letterman above his head. The audience goes wild. Interior, TV studio lobby, night. Reese and Spider-Man come out of an elevator, cross the lobby to the door.
So they're airing this tonight?
Yep. Oh, here's your check, minus my commission. Solid novelty act.
Spider-Man puts the check in his waistband. They head to the revolving door. Exterior, 5th Avenue, night. Spider-Man stands dead still outside the building. Shudders, street noise fades to silence. Track into his face, distorted sounds. Window smashing. Uncle Ben's shocked voice.
Hey, what?
This is Spider-Man's first experience of spider sense. A warning of danger.
Couple of drinks at Sardi's.
What?
I asked if you felt like a drink.
No, My aunt and uncle. Something's wrong. I need to make a phone call.
Okay, kid. Call me tomorrow.
Reese heads off. Spider-Man stops at a phone kiosk, picks up the receiver.
Mr. Reese, I need a quarter.
I just gave... Yeah, sure.
He gives Spider-Man the coin and walks off. Pedestrians gawk at the costume figure as he quickly dials. Behind him, across the street, there's a cut-rate electronics store.
Ben, is everything all right? Are you sure? No, I guess it was nothing. I just had this feeling. No, don't wake her up. Just watch Channel 4 at 12:30.
Alarm from the store in the background. A huge and menacing thief races into the street. A paper bag full of cash on one hand, a small TV under his arm. Spider-Man leans into the kiosk to be heard, speaks loudly.
Right, tonight. I know it's late, but it's worth it. I'll be on television. It's a long story.
An Armenian store owner chases the thief, who dodges cars and buses and heads straight towards Spider-Man. Brakes screech, horns blare.
Stop him! Somebody stop him!
Spider-Man dodges as the thief runs right past him and hurries down the subway. The winded store owner stops by Spider-Man, cursing him in Armenian.
Isn't that great? You wouldn't believe it.
What's the matter with you?
Okay. See you, Ben.
He hangs up, turns calmly to the irate store owner.
You could have stopped him, done something, stuck your leg out, tripped him, anything!
Oh, give me a break. Do I look like Charles Bronson?
Spider-Man walks off, leaving the store owner to his apoplexy. Exterior, bank machine, night. Clothes under his arms, Spidey pulls out the check. An impatient businessman and a fishwife behind him.
Can I borrow somebody's pen?
The businessman mutters,
Flake,
and hands him his pen. Peter starts to sign, Peter, then flips it over. It's made out to Spider-Man.
Wonderful. I guess I can still make a withdrawal.
Hey, nut bar, move it!
Interior, disco, night. Colored lights throb with the music. Young trendies clap with the beat as Spider-Man puts on a fabulous show of acrobatic breakdancing. In mid-move, Spider-Man freezes. The tingle of the spider sense again. Silence and, track in, we hear gunshots, a man's groan. Distorted. Ambient sounds of the disco return. The crowd urges Spider-Man to continue, but he pushes through them toward the bar. He lifts the lower portion of his mask over his nose to finish his coke. Kim, the sex pot Peter saw in Washington Square Park earlier, watches him hungrily.
I love the way you move. What made you stop?
Second time tonight. This weird feeling. Like a kick in the stomach.
She runs her hand over his masked face, then over his chest and stomach.
Ooh, I want you. You'll leave your mask on?
Right, excuse me.
He edges away from her, stroking hands, and scoots into the crowd. She shrugs. Exterior, Plaza Night. Public plaza in the theater district with a large metal Calder-esque sculpture. A light crowd, elegant theatergoers, a few hookers, vendors, and street people. Spider-Man, his web-wrapped clothes under his arm and a champagne bottle in his hand, tries to hail a cab. A vendor pops open his sample case.
A watch, man! You look like you need a watch. These real Rolexes, man. $20.
A cab pulls over. The vendor hangs in there.
You want a red one? Red Rolex right here. $10. Matches your tux.
Spider-Man leans into the cab.
Can you take me to Forest Hills?
$25 over the meter. You pay toll.
Hey! You buy 3 watches for that, man?
Spider-Man gets in. The cab starts off. The vendor goes after a well-dressed yuppie couple. Starts his rap again. The peculiar throb fills the plaza. People turn toward the metal sculpture, which pulsates. Interior, cab night. Spider-Man faces front, the plaza behind him. The cab moves very slowly.
I'm in a hurry. I've got to see my aunt and uncle.
Fella, my foot's all the way to the floor.
Interior, plaza night. The sculpture has become a huge magnet. In quick succession, every small metallic object in the air sails toward it from all directions. The vendor's watches fly from out of the sample case. The man's keys rip through his trousers, his shirt studs, the woman's bra from within her evening dress, a bag lady's shopping cart, a hooker's metal belt and purse, her pimp's gold chains and rings, a fat man's buckle. All fly to the sculpture and stick magnetically. The throb and pulse abruptly cease. The objects clatter to the plaza pavement. Spider-Man's cab, suddenly released, peels rubber with a screech. We see his face looking out the rear window. Interior, Midtown Tunnel, night. The cab shoots out of the tunnel into Queens.
Ain't any crazier than usual. albino alligators in the sewers, subway mutants with no faces, spontaneous human combustion. See it all the time.
Interior, cab, night. Through the cab window as it turns into May's block, 2 squad cars and a detective's sedan surround the house. Spider-Man leans forward, concerned. Exterior, May's house. Neighbors in nightclothes cluster on the street, a uniformed cop keeping them back. Ad-libbed confusion.
I can't believe
What's going on
this.
out there?
He was
Can't
such
believe
a
it.
nice
Such
guy.
a nice Can you believe it?
So this whole neighborhood's going.
Spider-Man, champagne in hand, collars an old lady.
Miss Shapiro, what happened?
She sees the masked face, lets out a quick shriek, and backs away into the milling crowd. Murata, a homicide detective in his 40s, waddles over.
What's going on here?
Somebody tell me what happened.
A burglar!
They shot him.
Shot who? Shot who?
I was doing the dishes.
Right in the guts, blood all over.
Wait, Lieutenant Murata, NYPD. What's
Who?
Ben Parker. He lived in that place for 15, 20
Like
years.
a stuck pig, moaning.
Ambulance took him away, and May went.
The bottle breaks in Spider-Man's clenching fist. The rest smashes to the sidewalk.
What hospital?
Oh, I think St. Francis.
Spider-Man dashes back to the cab.
I was just doing the dishes when I heard.
Hey, who the hell are you?
Interior, hospital waiting room, night. Sterile, lonely, harshly lit. May sits stiffly on the couch, hiding emotion. The impersonal sounds of the paging system. A TV drones on in the background. Peter runs in, street clothes covering the Spider-Man outfit. His hand bleeds from the smashed bottle. May looks at him, disturbingly calm.
Oh, Peter, you're bleeding.
It's fine. Tell me what...
Oh, but Ben gets through everything.
Aunt May, what happened?
I was napping on the couch. There was a voice and a shot. I woke up. Ben was looking at me.
How is he?
He'll be fine. They won't tell me anything, but I'm sure he'll be fine.
He sits beside her, watching her. He hugs her. She responds by patting his head.
Oh, stop that. He'll be fine.
Peter looks stoically across the lobby. It slowly dawns on him. He is watching Spider-Man on the Letterman show. Murata and a uniformed cop enter the hospital waiting room and move to Peter.
You the nephew?
Peter nods, dazed.
Your uncle's a brave old dude. Evidently the guy was coming at your aunt, so he jumped him. Caught a bullet, but chased the guy away. Lucky thing a black and white was...
Not now.
From the other side of the waiting room, a grim-faced doctor slowly crosses towards them. May stands up slowly, looking at his face and shoulders.
Mrs. Parker, I'm sorry. We tried.
A desperate sob. May clutches her chest, gasps for air. The doctor runs to her side.
Jesus, code blue! Crash cart in the lobby, stat!
A blur of action. Orderlies, nurses, a stretcher. Murata gently pulls Peter out of the line of fire.
We'll get the bastard who did it, Mr. Parker. He's trapped in a warehouse over on 112th.
Murata silences him with a dirty look. He puts his arm around Peter.
Kid, leave it. You can't do anything.
Peter pulls away, then runs out into the night. Murata looks at the cop.
Hey, I figured he ought to know.
Murata shakes his head, walks down the hall toward the doctor. The uniformed cop slumps stupidly in a chair, looks at the TV. The end of the Spider-Man segment.
All right, amazing. Are you quite finished?
Just about. You see, I also have this amazing strength. Strength. This is amazing. Strength. You see, I also have strength.
What does next time hold for Spider-Man?
Strength.
Tune in next week.
Yeah, because if you thought this first act was fucking rad, wait till you see the second act.
It gets crazy.
Oh my god, I love it.
Promise you. Oh,
promise
it's going to be
you.
great. And as we must say at the end of every episode, good
night
and
good canon.
Roll credits.
This episode of Creating Canon was directed by A.J. Hamilton and Nick Pappas. Produced by A.J. Hamilton and Nick Pappas. Voice engineered by A.J. Hamilton. And featuring the acting talents of Ben Bode as Roz, Uncle Ben, Letterman, and others.
Carrie Lee Cartwright as Adele, Lucy, and others.
Jessica Goldapple as Aunt May, Leiber, and others.
Seth Gunawardena as Peter Parker and Spider-Man.
A.J. Hamilton as J. Jonah Jameson, Harry, and Old Man, and others.
Jason Lovett as Doc Ock, Flash Thompson, and others.
Armando McClain as Detective Murata, Steve, Reese, and others.
Nicholas C. Pappas as a lot of stage directions and Hulk Hogan.
Adrian Papp as Liz, Betty, and others.
And Thomas Rounds as Thorkel, Politico, and others. Thank you all.